Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. The slant.
Yeah, but isn't this the unplugged version? I don't know. I think it's the unplugged version.
All right, Paulie, let's go.
Paulie here on the Latino Slant. Make sure you are subscribed. And thank you for being here. You know, this video is going to be part of a larger discussion, but we were able to nab our guest, our featured guest, and talk to him about what is going on in the world of Latinos and what we can say, what we can't, what words are good to use, what aren't. But I used to say that, but they're saying I can't. Que viva la raza or que viva la pasta. I don't know. You know, let's get him in here to explain it. Brandon Lord Maxwell of the Daily Chela.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
I know you're busy dude, and I really appreciate your time on this. This being a story that you broke and that from what I'm seeing gets a lot of traction. Like when any group or entity uses the word Latinx, there's always a nice pushback on it in the comments or whatever. I mean, you can always guarantee that anytime. So we're of course talking about the article that you did for your own publication, the Daily Chela, which the Latino Slant, the Latino Slant is a subscriber to, which we proudly are. East Coast Project Pulso dumps thousands on West Coast Chola ads. So there's a couple things here, right, Brandon?
Yeah, there's a few different things going on here that are interesting. And I'm not sure how much you want me to go into it, or if you want to give a rundown, or if you want me to.
Right. Well, I think like a quick breakdown is that this Florida-based quote unquote Latinx news organization has spent almost $1 million in ads to reach Mexican Americans in California and Texas. But there was some pushback against the term La Raza, que viva la raza, correct?
Yeah, well, what you have is you have an East Coast organization based in Florida that is actually funded by another organization in Boston. And the organization in Florida is a self-described quote unquote Latinx media organization. And they have been running ads in Texas and California using Aztec, Chola, Chicano imagery in order to grow their social media following. Now, that's interesting in and of itself that you have an East Coast organization trying so hard to have the following of people on the West Coast. But what makes it really interesting is they recently released a video denigrating the term raza and telling people why they shouldn't be using it and why it's problematic. Now, that's really the story here because you have an organization that's reaching out, paying, like you said, almost $1 million in advertising to reach Mexican Americans in Texas and California, only to reel them in and then bash terms that they use. So they project an image in their ads to get a social media following, then turn around and then attack the culture on the other side. And it speaks to a more interesting place where we're at in a culture where the far left, in some respects, an aspect of the left, actually is in agreement with the far right in terms of how they view Chicano culture. One views Chicano culture as anti-American, the other views it as politically incorrect. And so I think that that's interesting, and it leaves Chicanos kind of in the middle and being criticized from both ends, despite the fact that Mexicans and Chicanos make up 61% of the Latino population in the U.S.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. I remember, and it's important to know that this is not just some Wocoso lefties, kind of just, the stuff we're used to. You got to remember, there was a lot of misinformation from the right a few years ago on this one judge in San Diego who was a member of a group called La Raza Lawyers.
That's right. Yeah.
they're trying to like pin it as a you know, Mexican national, I don't even know if it was a socialist or communist connection that they were trying to get at, but they're dead wrong. And it got a lot of people riled up on the right, to where even, the mere sight of, like, let's say the United Farm Workers flag was
Hmm.
like, look, there's the communist sentiments, or
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
stuff that is kind of ridiculous, right? Go ahead.
yeah, right. And that's part of the problem is that, there's this narrative that raza can only mean one thing. Now, there are different people who've used it in different ways over the course of a century, but generally speaking, to most Mexican Americans, it's nothing more than a term of endearment and unity, and it's like saying the people in a lot of ways. It's not necessarily anything that's directed at anybody else. It's not supposed to be anti-American. It's not supposed to be any of the things that the critics like to say it is, which is the thing that's so confusing. A lot of these people focus on an essay that was written in 1925 that evidently talked about racial segregation and things like that. But that was one person who used that term in that way. The term has been used over the years in a lot of other ways as well. It was a staple of the 1960s Chicano labor movement.
Hmm.
It was a term that was used in Chicano hip hop in the 90s by Kid Frost. And so, yeah, it's perplexing to see an organization spend that much money on an audience that they just turn around and then turn off. And I think the problem is maybe they were well intentioned. I'm not sure,
Hmm.
but it shows the problem of having an inauthentic connection to the culture that you're trying to leverage for political reasons. Clearly,
Well,
they weren't attached to the culture that they were talking about, being from the East Coast.
well, it opens up a whole can of worms, right? Because raza is like anything from, like, homies hanging out, whether it's the lowriders or grilling or in their hood chilling, uh, to Chicano consciousness in groups on the university level, like you said, from the '60s on up.
Yeah.
Um, and Que Viva la Raza has been a great slogan, a rallying slogan, literally at protests. Whether it's I could say from back in the day, anti Vietnam, to United Farm Workers, all the way up to anti-immigrant. You still hear that call
Yeah.
sign, and it's got nothing to do with this gentleman's 1925 essay on the whitening of la raza cósmica, the cosmic race,
Mhm.
which also too has been waxed and waned differently as well by other authors since
Yeah.
that dude. You know what I mean? Um, I think the gentleman in the video from Pulso, I believe, is didn't do his research, is doing a disservice to the term, its connection. And who's really keeping it alive now is the very people that Pulso is, the very crowd they want as far as money, which is really, really crazy. It's bonkers.
Yeah, well, I think, for me, what's most curious is what their end intention is. They've only been around for 3 years. They're
Hmm.
dumping $1 million into advertising.
Hmm.
What is their end goal? And that's what I'm curious about. They're well connected, they're well funded, they have political organizations behind them, think tanks behind them.
Mm.
They're predominantly out of Florida and Boston. I think they have a couple people in Arizona. So I'm just curious, I remember seeing their ads in my Instagram feed, and I've kind of watched them off and on because their ads felt inauthentic to me. They felt like somebody outside the culture relying on the imagery of the culture to try to sell it to people within the culture. But when you're in that culture, you can tell the difference for the most
Hmm.
part. And I always felt it seemed very woke. And
Mm.
let's be honest. I mean, Chicano culture is really not that woke, right? I mean, that's part of the reason why you have that rift between the younger generation and older generation. The older generation is not that politically correct. in how they talk about things and how they discuss things. You know, in East LA when they had the looting, you had people on Whittier Boulevard protesting the looting. That was one of the big underreported stories. And so, you know, there. So when I saw all this stuff being peddled, they sounded like Remezcla out of New York. You know, it sounded like some of these bigger Latino kind of woke um, East Coast Latino publications trying to speak to Mexican Americans who seem to be the holdouts in a lot of this. They seem to be the ones that reject terms like Latinx. They seem to be the ones that are a little bit more politically incorrect in how they speak. And so I just felt like they were trying to leverage this imagery to reach out to them, and it backfired.
It's very strange because those publications used to be connected somewhat to the Chicano community. They got it. They at least had writers and correspondents in localized,
Yeah.
um, but that's gone away. And I think what happens is that you get disconnected um, from those communities. And even though you try to market to those communities because that's where the dollars are at, you've forgotten how to approach them.
Yeah. Well, and I also think, I think that people look at maybe even some of the things that I do. I talk a lot about Cholo culture
Hmm.
and urban Chicano culture, but really I discuss it in a nuanced way a lot of the times. Where on the surface, maybe to an outsider, it seems like all we're doing is posting pictures of cholos or just talking about the superficial, the basics, right? The
Mm,
aesthetics. But the
hmm.
people who read what I do or follow what I do know that it's actually we talk about it really on a deeper level.
Hmm.
And so I think that when you get somebody from the outside that tries to emulate it who thinks that's what we're doing when we talk about these things, or even when we crack jokes about these things, you just can't do it unless you've been around the culture. And that culture is a lot stronger in the West than it is in the East. And so,
Yeah.
you can't fake the funk really when it comes to that type of
No.
thing.
No, and it's not, and people listening and watching, it's not. Don't be confused. It's not just California either. It's the Southwest, I would say.
Yeah, it's
You
the
know.
West Coast, it's the South. It's like pretty much everything west of like Colorado, and then the strength of it dies
Hmm.
down as you get near Texas and then further east.
Well, I think yeah. I mean, even in Texas, I mean, La Raza Unida, the party came out of Texas, if I
Yeah. Oh
remember
yeah, it's
correctly.
it's big in Texas. Yeah.
I mean, like, so our history is a big part of this country, but the legacy, is defiant, actualized, Chicanos that are hardworking, and like you said, either they're kind of part of the older generation, um, that up until recently have been kind of quiet, but it seems that there's a pushback against Latinx, and now this,
Mhm.
um, it's just baffling.
Yeah.
Because I did see I know you said that in your article they deleted the original post, original tweet. Um,
Yeah, I don't remember saying anything about that.
okay, let me
I don't know.
just
Did they delete an original tweet?
see
Oh
right here. You
well,
said in a
let me
now
see.
deleted tweet on West Coast
Oh,
Journal, one
a
West
jur-
Coast journalist.
yeah, that was a West Coast journalist who had been recruited by Project Full Sail,
Ah,
who
okay,
said that
that West Coast journalist described the organization as fishy. Ay, ay,
right,
ay.
right.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Well,
yeah,
really quick, I was gonna say into what's still up on, like, let's say their Instagram page, which you said has what, like, thousands of
with
followers?
140 something thousand
Yeah,
followers. Yeah.
right. That on average, their posts, even the one about I can't remember that African American singer, about her weight shaming. They had like a couple of hundred, maybe not even a couple hundred comments. This one had like almost 500.
Mhm.
Like the interaction on those two Raza videos was just, and the majority were just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
you know so Is it on? Did it as of now? Do you think it's fallen on deaf ears still? I mean, they haven't reached back to you as well, correct?
No, they haven't. No, they haven't said anything, and I don't know if they're gonna say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And look, it's not my goal to get them to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's up to them. To me, it was interesting. I thought that people should know that this organization is not what it appears to be necessarily on the surface. And personally, I'm kind of tired of these organizations pushing their narrative on our communities. And you see it all the time. They push their politics, the narratives. They're backed by money,
Mm.
and I'm like, this is not how it is. And now we have an outlet that, yeah, we're a small outlet, but we're in a position where we can at least respond to some of this stuff, or maybe call it out. And so that's what we tried to do over at the Daily Chela.
Well, that's the latest right now. It's gonna be interesting as it progresses along to see just I what I am seeing nowadays, Brandon, is stronger pushback on these wokoso antics, I would say.
Yeah,
So
I think so too. Right.
so I appreciate you, man. I know you're really busy. Check out Brandon, the Daily Chela, dailychela.com, and his YouTube pages. Any closing remarks, sir?
No, I mean, congratulations on everything you're doing. You're keeping strong. I look at you sometimes on YouTube and I see your following continuing to grow. So congratulations on that. And
Órale.
no.
Well, que viva la raza. I'm gonna use that term to the day I die, and it's complete. I'm gonna say it again. It's completely boggling, like that. So disconnected from even it's embedded in the art. I'm sorry, I know I was gonna say goodbye, guys, but it's embedded in the art, in the fashion,
Yeah.
everywhere.
Right.
It's
Well,
like
that's
brown
that's
pride and que vive la raza,
right. I mean, and that to me is why it's in a way dangerous. I mean, not to say dangerous, it's just to spread that kind of misinformation about how, to say that the term raza means this or that, and to gin up or fan more contention, I think, with self-identified Chicanos and the rest of the Latino community. I don't
Yeah.
think it's helpful. So, anyways.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Let's keep up the good fight. Thanks again. We'll see you soon, and make sure you guys are subscribed to Latino Slant. Check out all our videos. We'll see ya.
Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. The slant.
Yeah, but isn't this the unplugged version? I don't know. I think it's the unplugged version.